The night my billion-dollar empire died, the only person who offered to help me was my maid's daughter. Not my board, not my lawyers, not the people who got rich off my decisions. The black cleaning lady whose name I barely remembered, and her kid. So let me ask you this, right out of the gate. If the person you've spent years looking down on was suddenly the only one who could save you, would you swallow your pride, or let your whole life burn? My name is Richard Montgomery, and for most of my life, I honestly believed I was untouchable. I ran a tech company worth billions. Montgomery Innovations, from a glass tower 63 floors above the city. I had the corner office, the view everyone posted on Instagram. When they visited the private elevator, the assistant who guarded my calendar like it was national security. I'd stand at those floor-to-ceiling windows with a glass of bourbon watching cars crawl along the streets like little toys and tell myself this is my kingdom. I did this. I built this from nothing. What I don't usually say in the glossy version of my story is that nothing meant parents who scrubbed floors for a living. My father was a janitor. My mother cleaned houses. I grew up smelling like bleach and cheap coffee, watching them come home bone-tired and still worrying about the light bill. I made myself a promise as a kid. I will never live like this. I will never be invisible like this. And I will never be beneath anyone. You can already hear where this is going, right? So when I finally made it, when the money and the deals and the magazine covers showed up, I convinced myself that needing anyone was weakness. People weren't people, not really. They were assets, staff vendors, line items. I was polite. I paid well. But I didn't see them. Not the way I should have. The day everything exploded, it actually started out perfect. We were on the verge of a huge Westbrook merger, getting ready to launch a new AI algorithm for predictive investing that we were calling revolutionary. The board was excited. Investors were circling and the media had already written half their articles. The team had been working around the clock, and I was riding that high you get when the world feels like it's finally agreeing with your ego. I was standing there, swirling bourbon, looking at my reflection in the glass. Silver hair just right. Suit tailored so sharp you could cut yourself on it, when there was a knock at the door. Mr. Montgomery. My IT director, David Harper, poked his head in. He was clutching a tablet, like it was a shield sweat beating at his hairline, even though the AC in my office was set to comfortable rich guy level. This better be important, Harper, I said, without turning away from the view, because that's the kind of person I was back then. It's about the new AI system, he said. Voice tight. Our security team detected some unusual activity. There might be a breach. I think we should run a full diagnostic before the launch. Might be, I repeated, finally turning around. We're not certain yet, sir, but the patterns are concerning. If someone got into the core system, they could. Harper. I cut him off tomorrow. We close the biggest deal of the decade and drop technology that's going to change the entire investment game. Do you have any idea what's riding on this launch? Yes, sir, but nothing. We have the best encryption in the industry. I didn't build this company by jumping at shadows. Make sure the presentation runs smoothly. That's your job. He swallowed whatever he wanted to say, nodded, and left. And I went back to my window, convinced that caution was for people who didn't know how to win. If it were you in that moment, what would you have done? Slowed down and listened, or done exactly what I did, and kept the train speeding toward the cliff? That night, I stayed late alone in my office reviewing projections and investor portfolios. The cleaning crew finished and left. The building got that after-hours quiet where the hum of machines seems louder and the city outside feels farther away. I liked it like that. Just me and my empire. At 11:47 p.m. my computer screen flickered, just once at first like a blink, Then again. Then it went black. I frowned, tapped a key. Maybe it was a power hiccup. A moment later, the screen snapped back on. Only now, it was a wall of red. Error messages started flooding in so fast I couldn't even read them. System failure. Corrupted file. Access denied. Each one stacked on the last, piling up until the whole screen looked like a digital panic attack. My phone started buzzing across my desk like it was trying to escape. "Montgomery," I answered already annoyed. "Sir, we have a situation," Harper said, and I could hear it in his voice. This wasn't a small problem. "The servers are crashing. All of them." "What do you mean, all of them?" "I mean every core system tied to the AI algorithm is going down," he said. "We're trying to isolate it, but it's spreading like wildfire. I think this is the breach I warned you about." That was the moment my stomach dropped. There's a special kind of cold that hits you when you realize you might have just ignored the one thing that could have saved you. It's like your body understands the truth before your brain wants to admit it. I grabbed my jacket, snapped into command mode, headed for the private elevator. The ride down to the server floor felt way too long, even though it was just a few seconds. When the doors opened, I stepped into something that did not look like a minor glitch. Emergency lights were on, casting everything in a red glow that made the room look like a crime scene. Engineers were clustered around monitors, faces pale. Smoke was curling from one of the server racks, that bitter smell of burning plastic hanging in the air. "Talk to me," I demanded. Harper turned eyes, bloodshot face drawn. "Someone planted a backdoor program months ago," he said. "It sat dormant until tonight. Now it's executing commands we can't override. The algorithm is corrupting itself and dragging everything else down with it. Can we shut it down? We're trying, but whoever did this, they knew exactly what they were doing. They're routing through our own security protocols. Every time we close one door, another one opens somewhere else." He pulled up a screen full of code that might as well have been a live feed of my empire disintegrating. "And sir, there's more. They're not just destroying data. They're copying it. Copying it where? We don't know yet. But by the time we trace it, they'll have everything. Your algorithm, every investor file, every proprietary system we've ever built. You want to talk about feeling powerless? Try standing there in a room full of machines that cost more than most people's houses, watching lines of code strip away a lifetime of work, and realizing the smartest people you hired can't stop it. By sunrise, the damage was catastrophic. Servers had burnt out from overload. Critical data was corrupted beyond repair. We'd lost core systems that were the backbone of our entire operation. And before we even fully understood what had been stolen, competitors started receiving anonymous packages full of our most guarded secrets. The media vans showed up before breakfast. I stood in my office watching news trucks and reporters cluster outside the building like vultures. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Board members, investors, journalists, regulators. Everyone wanted answers I didn't have. My assistant stood in the doorway, holding messages she was too scared to read out loud. "Mr. Montgomery, the board is asking for an emergency meeting," she finally said. "They're saying..." "Saying what?" "That you need to resign. Pattern interrupt for you. I walked into that boardroom thinking we were going to figure out how to fight back. Instead, I walked into my own execution. 15 years, I'd sat at the head of that long mahogany table. That morning, it felt like a witness stand. Everyone was there. People I'd mentored, promoted, made rich beyond their wildest dreams. And Preston Hale, my co-founder, my partner from the early days. Tall, polished, that practiced smile that never quite reached his eyes. "Richard," he started. "We all respect what you've built here. Nobody can deny that. But the fact is, this breach happened on your watch. Our stock has dropped 40% since midnight. Investors are panicking. We need decisive action." decisive action. That corporate code word that really means we need someone to blame. So you want a scapegoat, I said. Voice low. This isn't personal, another board member cut in. This is about protecting the company. The company I built, I said. The company that just lost billions. Preston replied smoothly. No one is questioning your legacy, Richard. We're offering you a generous severance package. You can walk away with your dignity intact. And if I refuse, he gave that little shrug that says the decision has already been made. Then we vote. And I think we both know how that will go. It was 12-1. You can guess who the one was. Security was waiting outside the door by the time the vote was over. Please surrender your access cards and company devices, Preston said, like he was just reminding me of a parking validation. We'll have your personal effects sent to your residence. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time I saw the satisfaction he couldn't quite hide. He hadn't just seized an opportunity. He'd been waiting for this. You planned this, I said quietly. I saved this company from your negligence, he answered, and nodded to security. Gentlemen, the walk from that boardroom to the elevator was the longest 30 seconds of my life. Employees stood at their desks or peeked around corners, watching the great Richard Montgomery being escorted out of his own empire like a criminal. Some looked away. Some looked sad. And some looked like they were enjoying the show. Outside, the press was waiting. Mr. Montgomery, how does it feel to lose everything? Is it true you ignored repeated security warnings? Are you facing criminal charges? I didn't answer. I shoved my way through microphones and cameras, slid into the back of my car, and told my driver to take me home. Home was a penthouse that suddenly felt like a museum to a man who no longer existed. Giant rooms that used to host senators and celebrities now silent. My wife was gone. She'd left 6 months before, said she was tired of being married to a ghost. My son had drifted away even earlier. Without the noise of work and meetings and power, the silence was deafening. Sometime that morning, a courier delivered a foreclosure notice, stamped official cold, 30 days to vacate. Accounts frozen pending lawsuits. By the third read-through, one word finally landed in my chest like a punch: bankrupt. Bankrupt. Homeless. Finished. You'd think that's where someone like me would break right. Crash, scream, throw things. Instead, I poured myself another drink, sat on my expensive couch, and stared at a city that suddenly didn't belong to me anymore. That's when I heard the vacuum. I'd forgotten it was her day. Amara had been cleaning my penthouse for 3 years. Quiet woman, late 40s. Dark skin and mind eyes. Simple uniform. She always came early, moved through the rooms like a ghost, made everything spotless, and left before I reappeared from my office. I'd made sure her pay was processed on time, nodded when we crossed paths. And that was about it. That afternoon, she appeared in the doorway holding a small tray. Mr. Montgomery. I thought you might need this, she said, setting down a cup of tea on the table in front of me. I looked at the tea, then at her. For the first time, I really saw her. The worry in her face. The way she carried herself with this quiet dignity, even in a uniform. The fact that she'd seen the news, seen me fall, and her instinct was to bring me something warm. Thank you, Amara, I said. And this time I meant it. She nodded and turned to go, then hesitated. Sir, if you don't mind me saying, I'm sorry about what happened. It's not right what they did to you. Something inside me shifted just a little. I appreciate that, I told her. She hesitated again, then said, my daughter. She's good with computers, studies all that technical stuff at community college. She's always talking about systems and codes and things I don't understand. If you ever need help with that kind of thing, the old me, even the me from 2 days before, would have laughed that off. I almost did. Help from a community college student from a cleaning lady's daughter on a system my high-paid experts couldn't save. But the man sitting there, staring at a foreclosure notice and a burning reputation, he was different. He'd finally felt what it's like to have no good options left. "That's kind of you to offer," I said. "Tell her I said thank you." Amara left me with my tea and my broken life. That night, I sat in my home office trying to get into any system that might still be salvageable. Everything was locked or dead. Every path I tried led to access denied or corrupted files. At some point, I just stopped typing and stared at a blank screen, wondering if this was it, if this was how my story ended. "Mr. Montgomery," I turned, and there in the doorway stood a young woman I'd never seen before in my home. She was maybe 20, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. Her natural hair pulled back into a neat bun. Brown skin, sharp eyes. Laptop bag slung over one shoulder. She looked tired from class, not scared of me, not impressed by the decor. Just present. "My mom's worried about you," she said. "She asked me to stop by on my way home." I knew instantly this was Amara's daughter. "I'm fine," I lied automatically. "With respect, sir, you don't look fine," she said, glancing at the laptop on the table. "Is that the system that crashed?" "What's left of it," I said. There was a beat of silence. Then she said the 10 words that flipped my life upside down. "Maybe I can take a look if that's okay." That was the twist. Right there. Not in a courtroom, not in some dramatic public showdown. In a quiet room in a penthouse about to be taken from me with a maid's daughter, asking if she can look at my broken empire, I almost shuddered down. Honestly, I could hear the words forming in the back of my throat. I had an entire IT department. What could you possibly do? That old pride fighting for one last round. But something in me was too tired to be that man anymore. "I don't think you'll be of much help," I said. But the edge was gone. She didn't flinch. "Maybe not," she said with a little shrug, "but it can't hurt to try, right? If it were you, what would you have done in that moment? Held on to your pride, or pushed the laptop across the table the way I did? Knock yourself out?" The next morning, Amara opened my door with her key like she always did, and froze. Instead of a quiet penthouse and a half-drunk cup of coffee, she found her daughter and me hunched over my laptop, surrounded by printouts and empty mugs. "Zuri, baby, what are you doing here?" she gasped. "Mom, you have to see this." Zuri said, eyes red from staring at code all night. Someone didn't just hack his system. They sabotaged it from the inside. I waved Amara over. "Your daughter is either a genius or a miracle worker," I told her. "I'm still deciding which one." On the screen, Zuri had pulled up logs and code fragments, piecing together a timeline like a digital detective. "Somebody installed a backdoor program months ago," she said. "It just sat there dormant until the night of the launch. Then it activated and started corrupting everything it touched while copying data out. This wasn't sloppy. This was planned." I started to say our security team would have caught that we had the best protection money could buy. She didn't even look up. "Every programmer has habits," she said. "Certain ways they name things, certain patterns in their logic. It's like handwriting. If you see enough samples, you can tell who wrote it." "And you think you can do that?" I asked. "I know I can," she said. "If you let me keep going." So I did. I watched her move through my system like she owned it. She pulled logs. Harper hadn't had time to fully analyze cross-referenced access times, with building records correlated user IDs with terminals. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, her face lit by the glow of the screen. "Okay. Look at this," she said finally. "This access tunnel shows up every Friday night around 11. Same route, same credentials. 4 months straight. And when I match it with your building access logs," she clicked and a second window popped up. "Same exact times, someone badged into a private terminal on the 30th floor. I didn't need to see the office number to know whose it was." "Preston's," I said quietly. That's Preston's floor. His private machine. Zuri nodded. Whoever did this wasn't some kid in a basement. It was someone inside your company, using their own high-level access, hiding behind your security protocols. And all the code. It's the same style, same handwriting every time. That was the moment when everything I'd been trying not to see clicked into place. Preston's calm at the board meeting. How fast they'd moved to push me out. The way he'd stepped into the hero role with the investors. He didn't just take advantage of my fall. He lit the match. Do you think that's unforgivable? Or do you think in that world that's just called business? For a few minutes, all I could feel was rage. Hot, blinding, choking rage. I wanted to storm his office, drag him out in front of cameras, show everyone exactly what he'd done. But even I knew that marching into the company that had just thrown me out with stolen logs and accusations wasn't going to work. We need more than this, Zuri said, reading my mind. Right now, this is strong. But he can say the logs were tampered with, or that someone used his credentials. We need backups he doesn't know about. We need records he can't quietly erase. Harper, I muttered. If anyone kept secret backups, it's him. Zuri pulled up his file. He tried to warn you, she said gently. Guys like that, they always have a contingency. We just have to find it. That's how I wound up in a cramped coffee shop the next morning, sitting across from a man who wouldn't quite meet my eyes. I'm not here to blame you, David, I said. I'm here because I know you saw something, and you tried to get through to me. I didn't listen. That's on me. But now Preston is about to get away with stealing everything I built. Help me stop him. If he finds out I talked to you, I'm done, Harper said, fingers tight around his cup. He told us what happens to people who cross him. He doesn't just fire you. He makes sure no one else touches you. Zuri slid into the seat next to me. Mr. Harper, she said. If you walk away, you're going to live the rest of your life knowing you could have stopped a criminal and chose not to. You warned him once and he ignored you. Now you get a second chance. Not everybody gets that. Harper stared at us for a long moment, then pulled a folded paper from his pocket and slid it across the table. Storage facility in Newark, he said. Unit 247. I rerouted audits and backups there for months. It's everything. You'll need this code to access the servers. Don't tell me where you're going. I don't want to know. Later that day, in a dusty storage unit surrounded by boxes and old furniture, 3 server towers hummed behind a tarp. Zuri hooked up her laptop, brows furrowed in concentration as layers of encryption peeled back one by one. This is it, she breathed eventually. Every email, every access log, every code, commit for the last 2 years. Hours went by. Amara made a food run. I paced. Zuri typed compared, mapped, traced. By the time she leaned back with that exhausted smile, she had built something more valuable than money. A timeline. Here, she said. This is your story in numbers and code. She showed me access logs that lined up perfectly with Preston's badge history and office cameras. She showed me code fragments with his distinctive patterns in them. She showed me email chains between him and competitors and messages that started as hypothetical conversations and ended as deals. This is enough to bury him in court, I said. If you have the right lawyer, she replied. I stared at her, this young woman who'd spent most of her life being invisible to people like me. Zuri, I said. When this is over, I want to rebuild, but not the old way. I don't want corner offices and shark tanks. I want to build something that actually matters. And I want you as my partner. Equal. Not my assistant. Not my employee. My equal. She looked stunned. I don't even have my degree yet, she said. I work out of a campus library half the time. You really want me as your partner? I don't need your diploma, I said. I need your vision and your backbone. She looked at her mother. Amara's eyes were full of tears, but her voice was steady. Baby, she said, whatever you choose, I'm proud of you. Zuri took a breath. Equal partners means equal, say she warned me. If you try to turn me into your poster child, I walk. Equal partners, I promised. We took everything to a lawyer I knew from my old life, except she wasn't that same person anymore. Jennifer Walsh used to be a high-powered corporate attorney. Then one day, she decided she wanted to sleep at night and switched to civil rights cases. She sat at Amara's kitchen table, flipping through printouts, listening to the whole insane story. Preston did all this, she said finally. I always knew he was ambitious, but this is a whole new level of illegal. Can we win? I asked. With this evidence, yeah, she said. But you need to understand something. He's not going to just roll over. He's going to come after you hard. And he's going to come after her even harder. She nodded toward Zuri. They'll call you a hacker, a criminal, an unqualified kid who doesn't know what she's talking about. They'll drag your mom's job into it like that makes you less credible. They'll try to humiliate you. It won't be pretty. Zuri sat up straighter. I've been underestimated my whole life, she said. I'm not new to this. I can handle a few lawyers. So we filed the lawsuit. The media had a field day. Disgraced CEO claims conspiracy. Montgomery blames former partner for his own failures. Community college hacker at center of billion-dollar scandal. Preston held his own press conference, where he said he was deeply saddened by my desperate attempt to shift blame, and described Zuri as a misguided young woman being used by a bitter man. While that circus played out, we did something that confused a lot of people. We started building again. We turned Amara's living room into an office. Then, when that got too crowded, we rented a dusty garage space and crammed folding tables into it. I called former employees who'd been laid off after the crash, told them I couldn't pay them yet, but I could give them equity in something new, something cleaner. Some hung up. Some said they'd think about it. Some showed up the next day with laptops and notebooks and a look in their eyes that said, let's try again. This time, the algorithm we built was different. Instead of trying to squeeze every last drop of profit out of the market, we focused on ethical investing. We taught it to flag companies that exploited workers, wrecked environments, cooked their books. We taught it to prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term spikes. This isn't what investors want, one of the engineers muttered. Then we're going to find different investors, I said. The first one was a small nonprofit that advocated for ethical business practices. They gave us $50,000. Not much in corporate terms, but enough to keep the lights on. Then some tech blogger stumbled on our story and wrote an article about the fallen billionaire and the Maid's daughter building ethical AI in a garage, and suddenly people started paying attention, right when things started to feel like they might actually go somewhere. Preston hit back. That's what people like him do. They don't just fight your ideas. They go for your name, your family, your face. Anonymous emails to our investors claimed Zuri had a criminal record. Fake screenshots of court records. Photoshopped images of me handing envelopes to witnesses in parking garages. Comments online calling Zuri everything from a scammer to a seductress manipulating an old man for money. Even Amara got dragged into it. They called her an opportunistic maid, said we were running some kind of elaborate sympathy scheme. Zuri pretended it didn't bother her at first. Then one night, I found her staring at her phone, hands shaking. They're saying Mom planned all of this, she whispered. That she put me in your house on purpose so we could take you for everything. They're talking about us like we're, I don't even know what. Amara took the phone out of her hands, set it aside, wrapped her arms around her. People who are scared will say anything, she said. We know who we are. We know who. I looked at them, at these two women, who had every reason to walk away from my mess, and I realized hiding wasn't going to work. We go public, I said, on our terms. We didn't have a PR team. We had a borrowed camera, a shaky backdrop in our garage, and folding chairs. But we called every reporter who'd ever left a card on my desk and told them if they wanted the real story, they could find us there. I sat down in front of that camera and told the truth. Not the polished investor deck version. The ugly one. My name is Richard Montgomery. I started, and a few weeks ago I watched everything I'd built crash in front of my eyes. Part of that was because someone I trusted betrayed me. But part of it was because I ignored people I should have listened to. I was arrogant. I was blind. And the only reason I'm standing here now is because a woman I barely noticed made me tea. And her daughter asked if she could take a look at my broken system. I talked about Zuri's work, Amara's kindness, Harper's guilt. I admitted my own failures. I said Preston's name out loud and described exactly what we'd found. Then Zuri took the mic. "I'm not a criminal," she said. "I'm a college student who likes computers. When my mom told me her boss was hurting, I did what she raised me to do. I tried to help. I didn't break into anything. I followed digital footprints the way someone else might follow tire tracks. I didn't do it for money. I did it because it was right." Then Amara stepped up, still wearing her cleaning uniform from another client's job. "For 25 years, I've cleaned buildings for people who don't even know my name," she said. "I've seen how some powerful people treat the ones they think are beneath them. But I've also seen that money doesn't make you better. What makes you better is how you treat people when you have nothing to gain from it." My daughter helped Mr. Montgomery when the whole world walked away from him, and now some of those people are trying to drag her name through the mud for it. I won't stay quiet about that. The clip went everywhere. The narrative shifted from disgraced CEO cries conspiracy to Maid's daughter exposes corporate sabotage. Messages started pouring in from people who'd been underestimated their whole lives, or who'd been the ones doing the underestimating, and didn't like how that felt anymore. As the case moved to trial, we graduated from the garage to a small office in a remodeled community center. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. We painted the walls ourselves. We bought second-hand desks. Amara insisted on a decent kitchen space and a corner with a couch so people could rest when they were burnt out. When it came time to put a name on the door, I didn't have to think about it. "Amara Technologies," I said. Both of them blinked at me. "You don't have to do that," Amara said quietly. "I want to," I told her. "This company only exists because you refused to treat me the way I treated you. Because you saw a human being in a man who'd never really seen you. If there's a heart in what we're building, it started with you." Then, if it's going to be Amara Technologies, Zuri said Mom's on the board, and not as a mascot. "Equal vote." "I don't know anything about tech," Amara protested. "You know about people," I said. "You know about integrity. That's more valuable than half the MBAs I ever hired. Now stick around because what happened next will blow your mind." The trial was like something out of a movie, except movies rarely show how exhausting it actually is. The courthouse was packed. Reporters lined the hallways. Preston walked in every day in expensive suits, surrounded by lawyers still wearing that calm, controlled expression, like this was all an annoyance that would soon go away. His attorney Blackwell was as slick as they come. He painted me as a man who'd flown too close to the sun and couldn't handle the fall. He tried to paint Zuri as some overconfident amateur, dabbling in things she didn't understand, encouraged by a cleaning lady with a chip on her shoulder. Jennifer tore his narrative apart with evidence witness after witness, expert after expert. But the real turning point came when Zuri took the stand. She walked up there in a simple navy dress, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. She wasn't polished in that media-trained way. She was just herself. When she raised her hand to swear in, her voice didn't shake. Jennifer started by asking about her background, her community college studies, the online certifications she'd taken, the time she traced a hacker who stole $300 from her mother's bank account, and got the FBI involved. She laid the groundwork to show this wasn't some fluke. This was what Zuri did. This was her world. Then Blackwell stood up. "Ms. Williams," he began. "You're 20 years old, correct?" "Yes." "You attend community college, not say MIT or Stanford." "That's correct," she said. "And that's because you couldn't afford a 4-year university," he pressed. She met his gaze. "That's because I couldn't afford it yet," she said. "So I'm using what I've got. A library card, free Wi-Fi, public resources." He tried to make her sound like a hobbyist, someone who'd watched a bunch of tutorials and thought she was an expert. He pointed out that her certifications were online, self-paced. He emphasized that no major tech company had ever hired her. "Some of the best programmers in the world are self-taught," she said. "Skill isn't about where you learn. It's about what you can do." He kept pushing. "You accessed company servers without authorization, didn't you?" he said. "I accessed backups with permission from the IT director who created them," she answered. "You decided this was okay," he said. "You. Not law enforcement. Not a judge. You decided you had the right to dig into corporate systems because you believed you were smarter than everyone else there." She took a breath. "I decided that when I saw evidence of a crime, I couldn't just walk away and pretend I didn't," she said. Then he went low. "Your mother cleans Mr. Montgomery's home, doesn't she?" he asked. "Yes." And she was concerned about what would happen to her job, to her income if Mr. Montgomery lost everything, wasn't she? Jennifer objected. The judge allowed limited questioning. "Are you implying my mother pushed me to lie to protect her paycheck?" Zuri asked him. "I'm implying you both had financial motivation to invent a conspiracy where there isn't one," he answered. That was the moment Zuri stopped being just impressive and became something else. "My mother is the most honest person I know," she said, voice steady but charged. "She has spent half her life cleaning up after people who don't even know her name. She didn't raise me to lie. She raised me to tell the truth when it's hard. That's what I'm doing right now. You can attack my school, my age, my clothes, whatever. But you don't get to rewrite what we found in that code." Even the jury looked moved. On redirect, Jennifer had Zuri explain digital signatures in simple language, then pulled up giant screens showing code snippets side by side. "These are 3 different malicious programs," Zuri told the jury, "planted at different times over several months. Notice how they use the same weird variable names, the same style of comments, the same unusual way of handling errors. That's not a coincidence. That's like seeing the same handwriting on 3 different threatening letters. And all of these were deployed when Mr. Hale had exclusive access to the system. You didn't have to be a programmer to see the pattern. The jury could feel it. The judge could see it." Blackwell had to sit down. When the verdict came, the room was so quiet, you could hear people breathing. "On the charge of corporate sabotage, we find the defendant, Preston Hale, guilty. Theft of proprietary information, guilty. Fraud, guilty." Preston's face went blank. His lawyer started talking about appeals. The judge shut him down, set a date for sentencing, then turned to the civil side of the case and started listing damages owed to me. It was a big number. I stood up. "Your Honor, if I may," I said. She gave me a look that said, "This better be good." "I don't want the money," I told her. "I want it directed into scholarships for students from underprivileged backgrounds who want to study technology. People like Ms. Williams, who have the talent, but not the means. And I'd like the court record to reflect that she is co-creator of the recovered algorithm. None of this exists without her." There was a murmur in the courtroom. The judge smiled for the first time in days. "Granted," she said. We walked out of that courtroom into a wall of cameras and questions. I kept my statement simple. "Justice was served today," I said. "Not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been told they're not worth listening to because of where they work, where they go to school, or what they look like. This victory belongs to a young woman who refused to be silent, and to a mother who taught her that integrity matters more than comfort. That should have been the end of the story, right? Villain exposed, good guys, vindicated, roll credits. Except life doesn't do clean endings. 2 in the morning, a couple of nights after the verdict, my phone rang. It was Jennifer. "There's been an incident," she said. "Someone broke into Amara Technologies. They didn't steal cash. They went straight for the servers. By the time I got there, police cars were lined up outside. Inside, it looked like a hurricane had hit. Desks overturned, cables ripped out, hard drives smashed. They were looking for our backups," Zuri said, arms crossed tight over her chest, eyes tired, but clear. "They didn't find them. Because you moved them, I guessed." She nodded. "Because after everything we've seen, I always have backups of backups. 3 encrypted drives in 3 different locations. Plus cloud storage they'll never touch. We're fine." The detective on the case told us they'd caught grainy footage of 2 masked men fleeing the scene. No faces, no plates. Professionals. No sign of a random smash and grab. "Think he sent them?" I asked. "We can't prove it yet," she said. "But if I were you, I'd upgrade security and go public. Whoever did this wanted to scare you." So we did, again. Convicted saboteur linked to break-in at ethical AI startup. That was the new headline. Public support hardened in a way I hadn't expected. People online weren't just rooting for us now. They were angry on our behalf. Angry for Zuri. Angry for Amara. Angry at a system that seemed to punish the people who did the right thing and let the ones with money cheat their way back to the top. In the middle of all that, we had a choice: spend our lives fighting one man, or build something so solid that his attempts to tear it down just made it stronger. We chose the second. We rebuilt the office better than before. Reinforced doors, better cameras, actual security staff. We expanded our scholarship program from 50 students to 100, then 200. We offered not just tuition, but mentorship and internships. Some of those students now sit in our offices writing code. I could never dream up. We moved into a bigger building, a refurbished community center in a neighborhood most tech companies would have ignored. Instead of kicking people out, we hired them. Amara set up community workshops in our space. We hosted classes on coding, finances, resume writing. People from the neighborhood started dropping in, not as outsiders, but as part of what we were building. We turned down money. A lot of it. There were big companies with dirty track records that wanted to license our ethics algorithm because it would be good for PR. Every time Zuri would bring the offer to the board, list out the issues and say, "If we take this, we're helpers in their harm." So we walked away. Again and again. Do you think that's naive? Or do you think maybe that's the only way anything changes? Years passed. Preston served his sentence. Our algorithm rolled out to more and more clients who actually cared about doing better, not just looking better. Universities invited Zuri to speak. Business schools invited me back to talk, not about how to crush competitors, but about how not to become the kind of man I used to be. One day, I got a letter with a federal prison return address. It was from Preston. He wrote that he'd spent a lot of nights in a concrete cell, facing the fact that he'd blown up his life over fear. Fear that he wasn't good enough, that he'd be exposed as less needed than he wanted to believe. He admitted he'd justified every step as just business, until suddenly it wasn't. He said watching what we'd built, seeing my name attached to something ethical instead of just powerful, had forced him to rethink everything he thought leadership was. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He said he didn't deserve it. He just wanted me to know he finally saw what he'd done. I read the letter twice. Then I put it away. Redemption is his journey now. Mine had already taken enough work. 10 years after the night my screens went red, I stood on the roof of our building, looking out over a city that felt very different than the one I used to own from a glass box. Below us was Amara Technologies, 3 floors of offices, labs, classrooms, and a community center we funded. On the walls downstairs, there were framed photos of our first scholarship cohort, then the second, the third. Many of them now work in tech. Some started their own companies. Some went back to teach. We'd just finished a 10-year celebration event. Zuri had taken the stage as our CEO and talked about the dangers of building AI without considering who it hurts. Amara had stood there this time, not in a uniform, but in a simple dress, and told a room full of people about what it meant to go from the cleaning lady nobody sees to co-founder of a company that refuses to look away from anyone. I slipped up to the roof for a minute of quiet. The door creaked open, and Zuri came out, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "You hiding or just thinking?" she asked, handing me one. "Little bit of both," I said, smiling. We stood there in comfortable silence for a while, watching kids play in the park we'd helped rebuild. Watching one of our scholarship students lock up the front door downstairs. "If you could go back and stop it," she said. Suddenly, "Stop the breach, stop. Preston, keep your old company. Would you?" I really thought about it. About the money, the power, the ease, the arrogance, the loneliness. "No," I said finally. "I wouldn't." She raised an eyebrow. "Really, really," I said. "Because I know exactly who I would be if none of that had happened. And I like this version of me a lot better. That guy had more money and less life. This one has you, has your mom, has this." Zuri smiled, looking out over the city. "That's growth," she said. "The real kind. Not the quarterly report kind." I laughed. "You know what the craziest part is?" I said quietly. "None of this started because I suddenly became a good person. It started because your mom brought me a cup of tea when everyone else was circling like vultures. Because you walked into my living room, saw a broken laptop, and said, 'Can I take a look?' So here's where I leave you with the uncomfortable question I've had to live with. If you lost everything tomorrow, would you be humble enough to accept help from the people you've spent your life walking past? The janitor, the cashier, the bus driver, the maid whose name you never bothered to learn, the kid at community college who doesn't have the right degree but might have the answer you need. Because that's what saved me. Not my degrees, not my network, not my money. A cleaning woman's compassion and her daughter's brilliance. Do you think people like Amara and Zuri get the credit and respect they deserve in our world? Or do you think we're still obsessed with worshiping the people in glass towers and ignoring the ones who mop the floors? If this story hit something in you, if it made you angry, hopeful, conflicted, whatever, I really want to hear it. Do you think Preston got what he deserved? Do you think I did? Do you believe ethical business is actually sustainable, or do you think we just got lucky? And be honest with yourself for a second. Have you ever underestimated someone because of their job? Their skin, their school, their clothes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Argue with me. Tell me I'm wrong. Or share a time when someone you overlooked turned out to be the person who changed everything for you. And if you want more stories about power, betrayal, second chances, and the unlikely heroes who turn everything around, hit that like button, subscribe, and send this to someone who needs a reminder that the people they ignore today might be the ones who save them tomorrow. Because if my life taught me anything, it's this. Sometimes the most powerful words in the world aren't, "I built this" or "I own this." They're, "Can I take a look?" and "Okay, show me."